The night began quietly, the kind of calm that tricks you into believing everything is fine. I was home waiting, assuming my wife, Jessica, would return from her usual late-night work meeting. Hours slipped by, and still there was no sign of her. I called, texted, even sent a quick voice message. Nothing. With every passing minute, the weight grew heavier, like an unseen pressure settling on my chest. I paced the living room, trying to convince myself she was okay, that she'd simply been held up. But deep down, a knot in my stomach warned me something was wrong. That night, I learned that calm can deceive, and silence can be dangerous. Morning light poured through the blinds, harsh and unforgiving. I sat at the kitchen table, drained from a sleepless night, nursing a bitter cup of coffee when the doorbell rang. I opened the door to a woman I didn't recognize, a phone clutched in her hand. She introduced herself softly, glancing back over her shoulder, and said, "I think this belongs to you." My heart skipped as I took the phone, my hands trembling. The moment felt heavy, charged with an unspoken warning, and I braced myself. I had no idea that in seconds, everything would change. As I unlocked the device, notifications flooded the screen. Messages, photos, and videos from someone named Tyler. My chest tightened as anger and disbelief surged together. I opened the first message, hoping for some harmless explanation. Instead, I found proof of betrayal. Intimate images, flirtatious texts, conversations that left nothing to interpretation. I stood frozen as the truth of the night before settled in. Jessica hadn't been at a work meeting. She had been somewhere else entirely, sharing space she'd promised to me. The woman who returned the phone watched quietly, sensing my shock, giving me room. I scrolled on, each discovery cutting deeper. My blood burned, my hands shook, and it felt like the room disappeared around me. I thought of the nights she smiled, pretended to care, whispered reassurances, and realized they were rehearsed lines for a life she'd been hiding. Anger and grief collided, feeding each other. I could hardly grasp the scale of her deception. I sank into a chair, the phone quivering in my hands, feeling exposed and powerless. Every message confirmed what I feared but refused to accept. She wasn't hiding a mistake. She was living a double life. My thoughts raced as I replayed missed nights, flimsy excuses, subtle shifts I'd ignored. Now it all fit. The late meetings, the vague answers, the constant texting she claimed was work-related. Each realization hit harder, fueling a storm inside me. The woman finally spoke, calm but firm. "I didn't want to get involved, but I couldn't let her keep lying to you. She left her phone. You deserve to know." Her words barely registered. All I felt was betrayal, pain, and humiliation boiling together. My wife had given someone else the parts of herself meant for me, trusting my ignorance to protect her lies. The audacity left me shaking, not just with anger, but disbelief that the person I loved crossed such lines. I didn't confront her right away. I sat in silence, letting the truth settle. Each second dragged as reality pressed down. I replayed memories, searching for missed signs, for logic, for reason. But the more I looked, the clearer it became. The evidence was undeniable. This wasn't accidental, trivial, or forgivable. My hands curled into fists, my jaw tightened, and a cold clarity took hold. Tonight, everything would change. The house that once felt safe now felt like a prison built on lies. By mid-morning, my decision was made. I wouldn't let her come home and pretend nothing happened. Not this time. I called a close friend, explained everything, and made sure I had support if things escalated. The woman who returned the phone nodded quietly. Understanding that my next steps were critical, I felt a strange blend of empowerment and sorrow. Empowerment in finally reclaiming control. Sorrow in realizing just how deeply I had been deceived. The morning sun no longer felt warm. It felt like a harsh spotlight, exposing every lie she had ever told. Hours later, she returned expecting normalcy, expecting forgiveness, perhaps even expecting me to smile and welcome her home. But the moment she walked in, her confidence collapsed. She noticed the phone on the kitchen counter, the presence of witnesses, the cold, unyielding look in my eyes. Her voice cracked as she stammered, I I can explain. But the room was already silent, heavy with judgment and anticipation. Everyone sensed the shift. The facade she had maintained for months was falling apart, and she realized that this time I would not be manipulated or deceived. I calmly stood and pointed to the envelope of separation papers I had prepared earlier that morning, anticipating her arrival. The truth comes with a price, I said softly but firmly, my voice cutting through the tension like a blade. She froze as the weight of the moment settled over her. Her hands shook, tears filled her eyes, and she understood that her actions carried consequences far greater than she had imagined. The witnesses around us, including the woman who returned the phone, remained silent, observing the raw force of accountability. Desperate, she stepped closer, reaching for my hand, pleading, "Please, it's not what it looks like. I didn't mean to. I didn't respond. I didn't need to." But her body language, her trembling voice, her wide, terrified eyes revealed everything. I had already made my choice. Tonight, the lies would no longer dictate our lives. Tonight, I reclaimed my dignity, and she was forced to face the consequences of her actions: humiliation, exposure, and complete helplessness. I walked toward the door, envelope in hand, leaving her standing in the center of our home, frozen, speechless, surrounded by witnesses to her betrayal. The air was thick with tension, shock, and disbelief. What began as a normal night had become a life-altering revelation, exposing lies, betrayal, and the painful truth of a marriage built on deception. And as I stepped into the world outside, I finally felt free, empowered, and unburdened, while she remained behind to face the consequences of her choices alone, humiliated, desperate, and completely speechless.